السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله الذي جعل للعلم أصولا وسهل بها إليه وصولا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. All praise and thanks is due to Allah, the one who made for knowledge foundations, and through them facilitated its attainment and preservation. And I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah alone with no partner. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. May the salawat and the salam of Allah be upon him. This is the first sitting in a summary of Ta'zeem al-Ilm, of glorifying knowledge. And it's on Sunday, 29th of March. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be covering this short book in approximately 4 classes. And bi'idhnillah, if Allah wills, then we hope that the situation will be better by then, so that we can join together in a house from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's so true that you don't miss something, generally speaking, until you don't have it. And so the feeling that we have is not the same. Sitting at home and doing things online is definitely not the same as sitting in a house of Allah and being in a place where it's devoted solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is the qadr of Allah, this is what Allah has decreed, and as such we have to bear with it patiently, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, so at the end of the lesson before last, we mentioned that we'll be covering this book, and that is for one main reason. After seeking the pleasure of Allah, the reason that we chose to cover this book is because we saw that as brothers and sisters and students, we needed to remind ourselves of these important manners, without which we will not attain true knowledge. Without these important manners, we will not attain true knowledge. And the aim of this book, according to the author, as we'll come to see shortly, is to provide the reader with tools, things through which he or she can get a good chance at attaining beneficial knowledge. So that is the reason we chose this book. The way that we're going to read the book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is as per the style of these sets of lessons and foundations of knowledge, is to focus on those usul or those foundations in these books which are the main components of the books, not to focus on details that may cause us to forget the main point of the book, but to focus on what is the author saying to us and what is the purpose of this book. As such, we'll be reading the book, and then I'll be giving you some summary points of what each tool or each chapter consisted of. So we'll read bi'idhnillahi ta'ala the introduction, and then at the end of each part I'll give you a quick summary of that book, that point. So today we'll have the introduction of the summary, and then we'll have the introduction to the book. So this originally was a book written by a scholar who is one of the senior scholars. He's in the Council of Senior Scholars in Saudi Arabia. And the book, he entitled it Ta'zeem al-Ilm, glorifying knowledge. Glorifying, i.e., giving its respect, being respectful, giving its rights to knowledge. And then he summarized the book. So that's why we have two introductions. We have the introduction of the summary, and then we also have the introduction of the original book. So today we'll read the introduction of the summary by the author, an introduction of the book by the author, and then we'll read the first tool, the second tool, the third tool, and the fourth tool, bi'idhnillah. And there are 20 tools that the author mentions, 20 topics or 20 things that will aid a person in glorifying knowledge. And then after that, we'll just have a quick summary on the slides, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And the slides can be seen on YouTube. Okay, so I'll read. Let's see if we can. I'll put up the PDF in Arabic, and I'll read a translation, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So this is the introduction. So this is the introduction here of the summary. So in the introduction, the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, or hafidhahullah, wa waffaqahullah, says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise be to Allah, the one glorified in oneness, and salutations and peace be upon his slave and messenger Muhammad, the one exalted in rank, and on his family and companions, and those of merit and sound opinion. To proceed, this is summarized from my book Ta'zeem al-Ilm, and I prepared it with the objective of memorizing it by extracting the essence of it and placing examples from every chapter, so that it becomes clear for the student like the sun in the morning, and to purify themselves by implementing and remembering it. So I ask Allah for myself and them. I ask Allah for myself and them to adhere to the tools of glorification, i.e., these usul, these principles that we're going to learn, that we adhere to them. And I also ask for his success, by his favor and supreme glory. So in this introduction, which is the introduction of the summary, the author, hafidhahullah ta'ala, mentions why he put this book together, or this summary together. Why did he summarize the original book? He mentions, I prepared it with the objective of memorizing it. So in this, the introduction of the summary, the author says, why did he summarize it? Why did he choose to summarize that book that he already had? Number one, so that it can be easily remembered. So it can be easily remembered. If I ask you this question, why did the author summarize the book? You need to be able to say so it can be easily remembered. And that points us to something important. And that is that knowledge needs to be memorized, either word for word or in meaning. Knowledge should be memorized. If you're a student of knowledge, then you should memorize. What you memorize first is different. You don't memorize this book first, but it should be memorized. And number two that we want to point out in the introduction of the summary, okay, how did he summarize it? He says by extracting the essence from it. He looked at the original book that he wrote and then took out the essence of it, the main part of it, for each chapter, and placing examples for each chapter. So the summary consists of him taking out the essence from each chapter along with some examples of that essence. Then we move on to the introduction of the book. This is the original, the actual book, Ta'zeem al-Ilm, before it was summarized. This is the summary of that introduction. Therein the author, waffaqahullah, may Allah grant him success, says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise is due to Allah, and I testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. Salutations and peace be upon his family and companions and those who taught and learned. To proceed. So indeed, The level of knowledge that a servant has will be in accordance to the level of glorification and estimation in his heart. Is a very important point. If the only thing that you take from the introduction is this, then this is something good. That the level of knowledge that a servant, that a worshipper of Allah, the level of knowledge that he or she will attain will be in proportion, it will be in accordance and proportion to the level of glorification, i.e., the level of respect that a person has in his or her heart. The level of the level of knowledge that a worshipper will attain will be in accordance and in proportion to the level of knowledge, to the level of glorification and esteem that the person has in his heart. فإن حظ العبد من العلم موقوف على حظ قلبه من تعظيمه وإجلاله. This point here. Highlight it. Okay, I don't know how to highlight it, but this point. Okay, forget that, but that's the point there. Okay. فإن حظ العبد من العلم موقوف على حظ قلبه من تعظيمه وإجلاله. He goes on to say, whoever's heart is filled with glorification and high estimation, then knowledge becomes suitable for him. And according to the level of the deficiency of its prestige in his heart, will be the decrease of its quantity until it becomes one of those hearts without any knowledge. So the opposite is also true. If a person does not have this respect for knowledge, then his heart also will not be a suitable place for that knowledge to stay. The author goes on to say, so whoever glorifies knowledge, its light will manifest on him, and its sciences will come to him, and all his aspirations become nothing but seeking knowledge, and nothing will give pleasure except thinking about it. And it is as though Abu Muhammad al-Darimi, the Hafiz, understood this meaning. So he ended his book of knowledge from his Sunan, named Al-Musnad al-Jami', with the chapter on glorifying knowledge. And the best thing, so now the Shaykh, may Allah give him success, has told us that it's important to glorify knowledge. So now what does he do? He tells us, how do you do that? So the next question will be, okay, Shaykh, you've told us this is important. So next question is, how would a person glorify knowledge, have this respect for knowledge, and treat knowledge in the way that it's meant to be treated, and its people, and so forth? And the best thing to glorify knowledge and have high estimation is to know the tools of glorification. معرفة معاقد تعظيمه. This is what the word tools are. And these are 20 tools that the author will give us. Okay. And these are broad fundamentals which establish the glory of knowledge in the heart. So whoever takes these tools will glorify and have high estimation. And whoever disregards this has wasted himself and followed his or her desires. Then let him not blame if he is exhausted, but himself. You are the one who tied and blew it, and the one who does not honor knowledge, then knowledge will not honor him. And that's the end of the introduction of the book, which the Sheikh summarized from the introduction itself. So then we will go to the first tool. So now these are the tools that the author gives us in order to glorify knowledge. He, waffaqahullah, mentions the first tool. And this first tool, this summary, can be summarized into 4 parts. Number 1, the Shaykh gives us an introduction. Number 2, the Shaykh gives us 2 foundations that purifying the heart go back to. 2 foundations. Number 3, The Shaykh tells us to look at the inside. The inside of a person is what matters. And number 4, the result of this. The result of this. And I'm going to read the chapter, or the first tool, and then you'll see how this summary applies. So the author starts, the first tool, purification of the vessel of knowledge. One of the ways of glorifying knowledge is that you have to purify the vessel, the thing which will carry that knowledge. And he starts off by saying, which is the heart. And the vessel of knowledge is the heart. And in accordance to the heart's level of purity will the knowledge enter. And if its purity increases, its suitability for accepting knowledge also increase. So whoever wants to gain knowledge should beautify his interior and clean his heart from its dirt. Knowledge is a delicate jewel, and it is only suitable for a pure heart. So this is the introduction of this first point. Of course, these summary points that I'm giving you, for example, I say the first tool can be summarized into 4 points. This is from my own notes, and it's not important in of itself how many points there are, but it's just a way to remember what the Shaykh is saying. So here the Shaykh Hafidhahullah introduces to us that the heart is the vessel of knowledge, and that is where knowledge is stored. So it needs to be pure. Then he says 2 things. The purity of the heart, he goes on to say, the purity of the heart returns to 2 major foundations. Purifying the heart will go back to 2 things. You purify it from 2 things. And one of them, the Sheikh says, it's purification from doubts. And the other one, it's purification from the dirt of desires. So the diseases of the heart, the things that corrupt the heart, go back to these 2 things. There are either things that corrupt the heart in terms of doubts, shubuhat, or shahawat. And so the cleaning of the heart goes back to these 2 things, because these are the 2 things that all dirt go back to. And this is true for the general Muslim. How much more true then should it be for the student of knowledge? The author then goes on to say, so that was the point number 2. The 2 foundations where purification of the heart or purification should go back to. Number 3, which is the importance of looking at the inside, not the outside. The Sheikh goes on to say, and if you feel shy from the creation, like you, looking at the dirt of your thobe, then be shy of Allah, looking at your heart and seeing some calamities and dirt and inflictions. The 2 things that a person purifies from are purifying the heart. Sorry, go back because someone asked a question. Purifying the heart from the dirt of shubuhat, of doubts. And the second one is purifying the heart from the dirt of desires, shahawat. The author then says, and if you feel shy from the creation, who is someone like you, looking at your clothes when they are dirty, then you should feel shy from Allah, looking at your heart, and within it are calamities and disastrous things, sins and slip-ups. And in Sahih Muslim is a narration from Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what translates as, indeed Allah looks neither at your bodies nor your wealth, rather he looks at your deeds and heart. So that was point number 3. The importance of looking at inside is not how you are, qualities that you did not even give yourself, but what is important is the inside. That's what Allah looks at. Number 4, what's the result of this? Knowledge, the Shaykh goes on to say, knowledge will enter to whoever purifies his heart, and whoever does not purify it, its dirt, then knowledge will bid him farewell and leave. Knowledge will enter to whoever purifies his heart, and whoever does not purify its heart, it from the dirt, whoever does not purify the heart from the dirt, then knowledge will bid him farewell and depart and will leave. Sahal ibn Abdullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, it is haram for a light to enter a heart whilst in it is something which Allah hates. So this is the result of purifying or not purifying the heart. It will either aid a person in seeking knowledge, the heart will become suitable for knowledge to settle inside, or the heart, if a person does not purify the heart, then the heart will not contain knowledge. So what will happen is that sometimes no knowledge will enter whatsoever. But at other times, knowledge may enter, but the person is prevented from the barakah. What does that mean? That means sometimes there may be people that on the apparent seem to have a lot of knowledge. They memorize the Quran and they know a hadith. But if they don't purify the heart, then what will happen is that the barakah, the goodness, the reason why knowledge is sought will not benefit. Such that at times the person may not get any knowledge, and at other times the person may get some knowledge on the apparent. From what you can see, they may seem like they have knowledge, but between him or her and their Lord, knowledge will not be a benefit for the person. Okay, we'll answer the question at the end, inshallah. Anything that's with regards to me repeating anything, I'll answer now. Otherwise, if the question is a bit longer, then we will answer either at the end or in the next lesson. The second tool is having a sincere intention. A sincere intention. And this second tool can be summarized into 3 points. What the Sheikh mentions here can be summarized in 3 points. Number 1, the importance of the intention. Number 2, how to have the right intention. Number 3, the ongoing need for the intention. The ongoing need for the intention. So we'll read what the Shaykh says. The Shaykh said, وَفَقَهُ indeed, ikhlas, sincerity, in actions is the basis of its acceptance and the ladder to reach it. Allah stated what translates as, and they were not commanded except to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in the religion. And in the 2 Sahihs collection, i.e. Bukhari and Muslim, is the narration of Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu that he said, the rewards of deeds depend upon their intention, and everyone will be rewarded according to what one intended. And none preceded nor reached the higher ranks from the righteous predecessor except through sincerity for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Abu Bakr al-Murudhi, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, I heard a man speak to Abu Abdullah, i.e. Ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad, and he mentioned sidq, honesty, and ikhlas, sincerity. So Abu Abdullah said, through these attributes, a nation rises in rank. And indeed, a man achieves knowledge according to the level of his sincerity. That was the importance of the intention. The second point the Sheikh goes on to make is how to have this importance. So, how to have this intention. So now the Sheikh has told us the intention is very important. The next question is, okay, how do we have this intention? What steps do we take to have the correct intention? The author, wafaqahullah, goes on to mention. And sincerity in knowledge stands on four fundamentals. Through it, one's intention for knowledge is one's intention for knowledge rectified if it is its objective. So these four steps are the steps. Number one, that a person intends removing ignorance from oneself. The person intends removing ignorance from oneself. And this is by learning what is required to perform the different forms of worship and act in accordance to the objective and commands and prohibition of the commands and the prohibitions. So number one, removing ignorance from oneself. That's the intention of learning, to remove ignorance from oneself. Number two, removing ignorance from the creation. Number two, removing ignorance from the creation. And this is by teaching and guiding them to that which is good for them in this world and the next. Number three, the person intends reviving knowledge and its preservation from it being lost. When a person seeks knowledge, then one of his intentions or her intentions is that they want to keep knowledge alive, to revive it and keep it from being lost. And number four is to act in accordance to it. The person, when he learns or she learns, they do so to act in accordance to what that knowledge teaches or what that knowledge points to. Allahu Akbar. The author then goes on to say, and the predecessors, may Allah have mercy upon them, used to be very careful or very fearful of losing sincerity. They would hold claim to it, not that they did not, they would, okay, there's a translation error here. They would be careful to claim it. Not that they don't, not because of they're not establishing in the heart. What does that mean? That means that the pious predecessors, they were not people who used to say, yeah, I'm so sincere to Allah, I'm always sincere, I'm a very good person, yeah, my sincerity is through the roof, I've done this so sincerely for Allah, and show off in that type of way, or speak in such speech, generally speaking. They wouldn't be like that. So you see the statement, for example, of Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad was asked, did you seek knowledge for the sake of Allah? So he answered, by Allah, it is very difficult, but it was something that was made beloved to me, so I sought it. I.e., did you do this for the sake of Allah? Was your intention pure when you done this? Was your intention just for the sake of Allah? If you say yes, this may be understood in the wrong way, that you're saying, yeah, I've done this for the sake of Allah. This is a good deed that I'm doing, and so forth. but rather they didn't used to claim it. Not because they didn't have that intention. They had it, but they will be fearful of claiming something out of its place. And from there, you see, you can compare it to people in our time. So a person should be careful of how they speak and claiming that they have sincerity and so forth. Okay, at times they maybe need to say it, but just be careful. The Sheikh goes on to say, this is all under point number 3. And the one who loses sincerity has lost a lot of knowledge and abundance of good. And it is imperative for the seeker of salvation to verify this foundation, i.e., to implement it, to bring it to life in all affairs, and the most intricate and important ones, and in the most private and public affairs. And based on this, one must be trying to the uttermost to cure the intention. And this is point number 4, the importance of renew. Point number 3 now, the importance of renewing the intention. So now we learned the importance of the intention. That was point number 1. Having the right intention is important. And the Sheikh showed the ayat and a hadith for that. Then the Sheikh told us, okay, how do you have that intention? And he brought us 4 steps. When you intend to seek knowledge, you do it to remove ignorance from yourself and ignorance from those around you. And you want to revive the knowledge and make sure the knowledge is not lost. And you want to act in accordance to the knowledge. These are the 4 main usul, 4 main principles that your intention should go back to when seeking knowledge. Okay, now he says to you, okay, now you've done that. Maybe you sat at the start of the lesson and you say, Allah, I'm doing this for your sake. Allah, help me be sincere. You've done that, but you have to keep that intention. So he brings a statement of Sufyan al-Thawri, where it is reported that he says, may Allah have mercy upon him, I did not cure anything more difficult than my intentions, because it keeps changing. And Sulaiman al-Hashmi said, Sulaiman al-Hashimi said, may Allah have mercy upon him, at times I narrate a narration with an intention. Then when I reach a certain part of it, my intention changes. Therefore, one narration may require multiple intentions. What does that mean? He would sit, for example, in a class and he's narrating a hadith or narrating something. And in the middle of the hadith, when he's narrating it, his intention may change. He starts doing it for the sake of Allah, and then something else comes. Could be anything. So he has to now check his intention again. A whisper from shaitan or anything from the heart can come. So the person has to constantly review, and make sure that his heart is pure when he's doing the lesson. So for example, for our times, because we don't really narrate the hadith like they used to narrate hadith, but you may sit in a class and you start the class doing it for the sake of Allah. You have the right intention and you're trying your best. A certain thing happens in the class and you start to become pleased with yourself. You start to think, oh, I know a lot. Actually, I didn't, mashallah, I knew this, I knew that. Oh, I said this beautifully. Or you want to prove a certain point. These are just examples I'm giving. This is not the exact athar. I'm just giving examples of how this can occur in our times for us. At that point, when these other intentions come, you have to push them away and go back to the main intention, which is to please Allah and only please Allah. You may be discussing something with your brother or sister, and you have a hadith that proves the point that you're making, and so you mention the hadith. At that point, be careful that arrogance doesn't come. The intention now, you mention it. Be careful that you not mention the hadith just so people can say, oh yeah, he's mentioned the hadith. What is your statement? What are you aiming with your statement? Ensure that the aim of your statement is right. So the point being here now, ensure that even one action may need more than one intention at a time, where the intention starts to divert. So the person has to keep the intention pure. And one of the things that the Sheikh mentions outside of the book is that as long as the person is learning and teaching, then he or she is a target for the shaitan. And from the greatest losses is that a person works hard and his actions become void of intention, and he ends up doing it for other than Allah. Allah musta'an. So those of us, for example, who came and sat today in our homes, but we put time aside from other busy things, and we said, let me sit in the class today and talk or listen and partake in something. As long as our intention is good, then we're going to be the best of people in that action. Not generally, but the best of people in that time, in that action that you're doing. But if a person's intention becomes that you want to show off and say, I was in the class and this and that, or whatever the case may be, then the person would have lost. And what a great loss he would have lost. Point number 3, tool number 3. So the first tool was purifying the vessel of knowledge, which is the heart. The second tool was having the true intention or pure intention in seeking knowledge. The third tool that the author rahimahullah, hafidhahullah mentions is to direct all your intention or your himmah, your determination upon it, i.e. that your focus now becomes to seek knowledge. Having, some translate it as having a high determination for it. Well, the Arabic is not that simple. It says jam', to compile, to put together, himmatin nafs, the determination of the soul, alayhi, on it, upon it. And this third tool, we're near the end. Inshallah, you can stretch your legs soon. I hope no one is sitting and lying down. And if I describe a certain action, maybe people will think that there's cameras in the house. There's no cameras, but we're humans, so we have similar way of thinking. But be patient, inshallah. There's only a page and a half, so another 10, 15 minutes max, inshallah. The third tool, having high intention and high determination for it. This can be summarized, what the author says can be summarized if we go over the point of acting in accordance in the second tool. Yes, acting in accordance. The Sheikh didn't mention anything specific to it, but acting in accordance. That's the fourth step of intention. So part of the intention is acting in accordance. Okay, this third tool can be summarized into 4 points. Number 1, how to attain determination. I have to become determined. What are the steps to really become determined? Number 2, the importance of this. The importance of having a strong determination. Number 3, some examples for this. Examples of people before us who had high determinations. And number 4, a warning. Don't be somebody who is young in body and old in his determination. That will become clearer. The fourth point is, don't be somebody who is young in body and old in determination. That will become clear. So the author starts off the first part of this third tool by saying, how do you attain a high determination? How do you compose yourself and your focus onto seeking knowledge and gaining knowledge? He says, determination reaches its height for the goal by concentrating on 3 matters. You can focus, you can gather your determination, your focus on what you're aiming to achieve by having 3 matters. Number 1, paying attention to what benefits. Paying attention to what benefits. For whenever the servant is guided to what benefits him, uh, he will be he will find importance in looking for it, or he will be enthusiastic in that thing. So the first thing out of the three things which will help a person to have a strong determination is number one, paying attention to what benefits. Number two, seeking help from Allah to gain it. Number two, seeking help from Allah to gain it. Number three, not giving up before reaching the objective. Not giving up before reaching the objective. And these three steps, or these three things which help a person to have a strong focus and determination when achieving something, are found in the hadith that was narrated by Muslim rahimahullah from Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. Adhere to that which is beneficial to you. That's the first point. واستعن بالله, and seek help from Allah. That's the second point. ولا تعجز, and do not give up. That's the third point. So as a student especially, a general Muslim, but as a student especially, you focus on these three things in order to have a high determination. Number one, you pay attention to what benefits you. You have to know what you're studying, what you're going to study, what will benefit you, and also the road path to knowledge, which is one of the tools that's coming up. And then at the same time, when you're doing that, keep seeking help from Allah. And here there's a footnote, or we can add a footnote from the Sheikh's explanation of it. He says sometimes, especially for the young person, they can oversee, or they can forget, they can be negligent of step number two, seeking help from Allah. Because he has so much energy, or she, the young person especially, has so much energy that it causes them to think that their hard work is what gets them knowledge. So for example, they say, I'm young, I've got a good memory, I can focus, I'm intelligent, and they end up relying upon these qualities and not relying upon Allah. First, the person should ask Allah. Always. When you reach a certain level, then ask Allah to help you reach the next level. Don't be like somebody who, when he first starts seeking knowledge, he asks Allah, makes a lot of dua. Oh Allah, help me. Oh Allah, help me. Oh Allah, help me to learn Arabic. Oh Allah, help me to learn Quran. Oh Allah, help me to learn such and such a thing. And when they achieve it and they are going on to the next level, they forget to ask Allah. They stop asking Allah. As though what they have now of knowledge is enough. They can rely upon that instead of relying upon Allah. And that is incorrect. And this second step of seeking help from Allah is something that especially can happen to those people that have those qualities, especially young people that have free time and they have a mind which is clear, they're not busy in their mind, and so they end up relying upon it. So a person has to be careful. Having a high aspiration and determination consists of all these three parts. Number one, paying attention to what benefits you. Focus on what benefits you. Number two, seeking help from Allah. And number three, not giving up. Even if times are hard. Sometimes the teacher will say something and you don't understand what he is saying. Maybe the teacher will explain something to you in tajweed and say, don't say, for example, he might say, don't say as-sama, say as-sama. And to you, that sounds exactly the same. It's happened to me many times before. I'd say, Sheikh, I don't know the difference what you're saying. He said, there's a difference. Can you hear it? I said, no. Don't give up at that time. that is the time to make dua. When you finish the class, ask Allah to make it easy for you so that you can understand. And you'll find that Allah will make the way easy for you. But if at the first hurdle you give up, then you will not find that. So don't give up before reaching your objective. Okay. The second summary point of this third tool of having high determination is that the Sheikh shows us the importance of this. He goes on to say, وفقه الله, Al-Junayd said, no one sought something with exertion and honesty except that he acquired it. And if he did not acquire all of it, at least a part of it. And Ibn Qayyim said in his book Al-Fawaid, if determination is adopted in a state of powerlessness, which is followed by a strong resolution, surely the heart will be enlightened by the light of Allah. I.e., if a person has a strong determination, even if he's in a state of powerlessness, and that strong determination is followed by a strong resolution, i.e., he is going to stick at it, he's not going to give up, then he will end up with some light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the importance of having the high determination. And number 3, he gives us some examples. What does this high determination look like? In practical examples, in examples from scholars of the past, what was it like? So he goes on to tell us, وَفَقَهُ اللَّهُ, and this is the third point of the third tool, the examples. And no doubt that what makes the determination, and no doubt that what takes determination to its height is learning about people who preceded and reflecting on the determination of the people of the past. This is one of the reasons you read biography of the people of the past. This is one of the reasons. And when you look at their biography, you see their determination, you see how hard they worked. And one of the other reasons that we can add, this is not the Sheikh that I mentioned this, but one of the other reasons we can add of why you should look at the biographies of the people of the past is to help you not become self-amazed, to think, I know a lot, Because when you compare yourself to people around you who may not be even Muslim, your neighbor, sometimes in your own household, you say, I'm doing a lot. I know how to read Quran, I know how to do this, I know how to call the adhan. Basic things that for a Muslim are basic things, but because we're comparing ourselves to non-practicing people or people that are not even Muslim, we might see ourselves as something bigger than we are. So reading the biographies of the people of the past has 2 positive things, amongst others. Number 1 is what the author mentioned here. And no doubt that what makes your determination high and rise up is learning about the people who preceded. Because when you read that Imam Ahmed done this, you think, hey, I need to try to do that. Let me try to get something. Let me try to get to a certain level. And also that will also help you to not think, I'm something. Okay. So for example, he gives us some examples now. Like Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal. When he was in his childhood, he would at times want to leave before Fajr to go to the classes of the scholars. Let's repeat that. Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad, when he was in childhood, he would at times want to leave before Fajr. To do what? Not to go play, not to go downstairs to the PlayStation. He would want to leave the house before Fajr to go to classes of the scholars. And so his mother would hold him by his garment, and she would say out of mercy for him, until the people call the adhan, or until they wake up. Wait a bit, until the people call the adhan or they wake up. Another example, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, may Allah have mercy upon him, recited Al-Bukhari to Ismail al-Hiri in 3 sittings. He recited the whole of Bukhari, he read the whole of Bukhari to him in 3 sittings, in 3 gatherings. 2 of them in 2 nights from the time of Maghrib prayer until the Fajr prayer, and the 3rd day from morning to Maghrib prayer, from Maghrib to the rise of Fajr. So these are examples. The Shaykh goes on to say, And Abu Muhammad ibn Battan would study the whole night in his early days. So his mother used to have mercy upon him and stop him from reading at night time. So he used to take a lamp and place it under a huge bowl and used to act asleep. And when she lay down, he would remove his lamp and begin studying again. He would study hard. He wasn't being pushed by his parents to study. He was pushing himself to study. And then the author finishes off with the warning: don't be someone who is young in his body and old in his intention, his determination. He says, may Allah preserve him. So be a man whose feet are firm on the ground and the height of his determination is above the lofty galaxy. And do not be a youthful in looks, but old in determination. For the determination of the truthful does not get old. Abu Wafa ibn Aqil, one of the brilliant minds of the world from the jurists of the Hanabila, used to chant, and he was in his 80s. Neither did my determination get weak, nor my firmness and my character, nor my devotion, religion, and generosity. It's just my hair has changed. It's just my hair has changed, not its character. And old is different from being old in determination. What's the point the Sheikh is making? The Sheikh is making that the point he's making is be someone who is passionate in learning. When you have this high determination, you're going to study, you're going to class, you're doing your revision, you're doing your homework, you're focusing. Have these 3 steps. Number 1, focus on what benefits you, keep asking Allah for it, and don't give up. That's how you have a high determination. Okay, what would be the benefit of that? That's the second point. He mentions that you will achieve what you want to achieve. If not all of it, then part of it. Okay, give us some examples, Sheikh, because we want to see how did the people before us have this determination. He gave you a couple of examples. From them, Imam Ahmed, when he was young, he used to want to go out before Fajr when he was in his childhood, such that his mum had to stop him and say, be patient until the people call for the adhan or the people wake up. And we should read other scholars' biographies to see the determinations that they had and see where we are and try to improve in our determination. And then the author went on to say, but don't be like the person who is Allahu Akbar. And don't be like the person who is young in his body but old in his determination. The old person can't move, he can't do anything. So your determination is like that. Oh, I want to go class, but so your determination is acting as if you're old, but your body is still young. The 4th tool, which is the last tool for today, the author titled it as Sarful Himmah Fihi ila ilmi al-Qur'ani wa Sunnah. Diverting or putting your focus and your determination towards the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. And this really can be summarized into 2 main points the author mentions. Number 1, the types of knowledge. And number 2, knowledge in our times compared to the times before. So the 4th tool is diverting or focusing knowledge, putting your focus towards the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. Directing your focus towards the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. Directing your focus towards the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. And this can be summarized into 2 points. Number 1, the Sheikh is going to tell us the types of knowledge. And number 2, the Sheikh is going to tell us knowledge in our times and knowledge before. Okay, the author starts this 4th point, or the 4th tool, by saying, indeed, every beneficial knowledge originates from the speech of Allah and the speech of His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the rest of knowledge is either an assistant to these 2. It either helps you to understand these 2. So what do? So you take from it what can assist. or it is not related to the Quran and Sunnah. So its ignorance would be of no harm. So now knowledge, he is separating knowledge into three. We're going to discuss that in the summary at the end of this point. And he goes on to say, and how excellent is the statement of Iyad in his book Al-Ilma'. Knowledge lies in none other than the two, except for a deviant from the clear way. Knowledge of the book and knowledge of the narrations which have come in chains from Tabi'i and companion. And here the author mentions, in explanation, he mentions two statements. One of them was from one of the early scholars whose name was Masruq. He said that we did not ask the companions of the Prophet ﷺ about anything except that its knowledge would be in the Quran. But it was only that our knowledge of the Quran was short. ما نسأل أصحاب محمد عن شيء إلا علمه في القرآن إلا أن علمنا يقصر عنه. So what he means is, whenever they used to ask the companions about something, the companions would answer and bring part of that knowledge from the Quran. And then he said, it's just that our knowledge, our understanding of the Quran was short. And what about us then? Is one of the reasons that people turn away from the Quran, because they don't understand it. The answers of many things are there, but people struggle in being able to understand it. And it is narrated that Ibn Abbas says, جميع العلم في القرآن لكن تقاصر عنه أفهام الرجال. All of knowledge is in the Quran, but it's just that men's minds have been deficient in it. Men's understanding of the Quran is deficient. That's why you don't see the answer there. But the answer is in there. Then the author goes on to say, and this is the second part, knowledge in our times versus knowledge in the time before us. He goes on to say, and this is what used to be the knowledge of the righteous predecessors. May Allah have mercy upon them. Then after them, the knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. This used to be the knowledge of the righteous people. Then after them, unnecessary speech increased, which was of no benefit. So knowledge amongst the predecessors was more, and speech in those that came after them was more. Hamad ibn Zayd said, I told Ayyub al-Sikhtiyani, is the knowledge today more or in those that preceded? So he replied, speech today is more, and knowledge in those that preceded was more. Okay, that's the end of what we're going to read from the book today. We'll have a quick look at the summary, inshallah. And just check your notes with this. Okay, that's first lesson. Okay. Introduction to the summary. So this was the introduction to the summary that the Sheikh wrote. And in it, he mentioned the purpose of the summary is to facilitate its memorization. The reason why he summarized this book is to make it easier for people to remember it. And here we said an important point. So you can see the whole screen. Here we said an important point. And that important point is that knowledge should be remembered. As for the studying big books and you don't remember the foundations of knowledge, then I don't know any scholar who recommends that. There may be, but I don't know them. If there are, he mentioned it in the groups. Okay. And the second point that he mentioned, how did he summarize it? By extracting the essence of each tool from the 20 tools through which we can glorify knowledge. He gave us the essence. What's the main point of each tool? And providing an example, or providing some examples. So that was the summary of the introduction of the summary. And then the main introduction of the book, which the Sheikh actually summarize also the introduction. He said, the level of knowledge a person attains will be in proportion to the level of glorification, I respect, of knowledge in their heart. How much knowledge a person will achieve will be in proportion to the level of respect that they have for the knowledge. And respect for knowledge means respect for knowledge itself, respect for the people of the knowledge, respect for the tools, i.e., the books, the materials that you use for knowledge, and so forth. And then he, after having told us that the way you gain knowledge really is, in essence, to have ta'zeem of it, to respect it and glorify it. And then he says, okay, well, how do you do that? He gives us the answer. He says the best way to glorify knowledge and give it its due respect is by way of the tools of glorifications, which are fundamentals. They are fundamental points that apply generally across knowledge. And remember that getting knowledge is not just about memorizing. Knowledge is not just narrating things. It's not just saying ayat. Knowledge is a light that Allah gives the person that he does good or she does good by that. And when they do sins, they know to repent and they know to go back. Okay, so the first tool was purifying the vessel of knowledge. And the Sheikh mentioned 4 things. I think it was 4 things. No, I'm going to see now. Number 1, introduction. The heart is the vessel of knowledge, and its proportion to its cleanliness, and in proportion to its cleanliness, will it store knowledge. Also, the 2 foundations which all purification returns to: purifying the heart from doubts and purifying the heart from desires. Then he goes on, look at your insides, not the external appearance. Allah looks at the inside of a person, not the external appearance. And then number 4, the result of this will be what? The attainment of knowledge for the person who purifies the heart, and the opposite for the person who does the opposite. So those are the 4 points you can take away from purifying the heart, the first foundation of knowledge, the first tool of glorifying knowledge. Okay. Second tool, sincerity in intention. The author went on to mention importance of intention. It is the basis of the acceptance of actions. Then he also told us how to have the right intention. He mentions 4 steps. I hope you have those 4 steps. So I don't write them out. Someone can type the 4 steps for the rest of the class, inshallah. Type it in the comments as we go. The ongoing need to have in having and reviewing the intention. The ongoing need for having and reviewing the intention. As we mentioned there, the statement of the person who narrated one hadith, he'd have intention at the start, and in the middle of hadith, he'd have to correct his intention again. The third tool that we cover today, 3 things needed for a strong determination, or having a strong determination. There are 3 things needed found in the hadith. Focus on that which, be enthusiastic in that which benefits you. That's the first one, good. Then the author said the importance of having high determination. Having a high determination will be what helps you to achieve knowledge. He wrote the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim there. And then he gave us some example. For example, Imam Ahmed and Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, and there's many other examples from the people before us. And then he went on to say, do not be young in your body and old in your determination. And some people, for example, they're old in determination for knowledge, but they will go to football, or they will go to eat with the brothers, or they will go do other things. But when it comes to going to lesson, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm this, I'm that. That's not. That means that, you see, that level of determination is low. That means the level of knowledge you achieve is low. There's not things I'm making up. When your level of determination becomes low, that you can't pull yourself to go to class, then your achievement, what you get out of it, will be low. And the person who, even though he's hungry, even though he might be, a bit, he has social things that he can go to, but he says, oh, you know what, there's a class, let me go to that class. He gives respect to that class, not to the teacher. I'm not saying about the teacher, but he gives respect to that class and goes to it His regular class says, oh, you know what, even though I'm hungry, I'll go, and then after I will eat. He puts the class first and the hunger afterwards, or he puts the class first and the social gathering afterwards. Then that person will learn more. Either he will learn more in a way that you can see, you'll see that he'll learn more hadith, he'll learn more ayat, he'll learn more books, or he may learn more in terms of the benefits it has inside of him. Allah understand. Connection is unstable. Okay. Number 4, the last tool. Focusing your determination to the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. The types of knowledge, we're going to discuss that. And then knowledge in our time is the knowledge of the early generations. They used to have a lot of knowledge and little speech. They need to speak a lot. In our times, people have little knowledge and a lot of speech. Okay, let's look at. Okay, so you have knowledge. You have knowledge, yeah, and you have, it's either knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah directly, Quran or the Sunnah. That knowledge is praiseworthy. Then you have other than that, it's not directly Quran and Sunnah, and that itself is split into two. Let's see if that comes. You have knowledge that helps you understand the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay. That will be, for example, Usul Tafsir. That will be for Mustalah al-Hadith. That will be, for example, Mustalah al-Hadith. So in those things that help you understand the Quran and Sunnah, you learn from them as much as you need in order to understand the Quran and Sunnah. You don't go overboard in them. You don't sacrifice knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah for knowledge that helps you to understand the Quran and Sunnah. Your aim is here. Your goal is here. Right here. Quran and Sunnah. This here, what helps you understand the Quran and Sunnah, you take as much as you need of that. As much as you need of this, take as much as you need as that, as will help you understand the Quran and Sunnah. And then you have other knowledge which is foreign to the Quran and Sunnah. It doesn't help you to really understand the Quran and Sunnah. It's neither, it might not be harmful, it might not be beneficial. It's just general knowledge. Could be knowledge of dunya stuff. Then you take from that. That's separate. That's not a student of knowledge field. That's just your dunya field. Maybe you need to get a job, you need to do something. Then you do that. That can be an act of worship. But now we're talking about seeking knowledge, Islamic knowledge. So knowledge was split into those three categories. Number 1, knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. Number 2, knowledge which helps you understand the Quran and the Sunnah. And number 3, knowledge which is foreign to the Quran and the Sunnah. It has no connection. It doesn't help you to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. It's not a tool to understand the Quran and the Sunnah. That knowledge, the last one, the one here, foreign to the Quran and Sunnah, the student of knowledge is not in need of it. Okay. Where there, inshallah, then we finished. We finished the first sitting, which was the first introduction, 2 introductions, and the first 4 tools. Inshallah, during the week we'll have just gatherings where we're going to just read some books, some short articles, and relax a bit, inshallah. So it's not a formal class like this, and that will probably be on Zoom. So if you want to go to those gatherings, either message the Masjid mobile. If you haven't got the WhatsApp group, or you haven't got the WhatsApp, you then get a message from the Learning to Practice WhatsApp. Then message the Masjid WhatsApp, and they will let you know about those just general gatherings where we can sit and hang out and inshallah ta'ala read some other books. Like inshallah we'll be reading some extracts from, where's the book? 1 second. Oh, from this book. Of knowledge. Okay, and also some other extracts ta'ala, because there's a series of lessons that we want to keep going. Any questions? I keep getting a message saying it's unstable. Your connection is unstable. Okay. Any questions, inshallah, please send them by email or message. Bismillah ta'ala. How does one purify themselves from the doubts and desires? Generally speaking, knowledge. Specifically speaking, it depends on the doubt and depends on the desire. It depends on the doubt, depends on the desire. So it is a very broad topic. One of the brothers asked if we can read a book about purifying the heart. To be honest with you, it's a very difficult topic for me to talk about. So I don't know if we'll get to do it. But those are two broad topics. Please save the live stream. Inshallah, we'll save the live stream. Bismillah ta'ala. So doubt is generally cured by knowledge, correct knowledge, and also avoiding places of doubt. And desire is very difficult. Depends on the type of desire and so forth. But generally speaking, knowledge will cure desire as well, because the more you know Allah, the more taqwa you will have. Generally speaking. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "I am the most knowledgeable of Allah, and the more knowledge, I'm the more knowledgeable of Allah and have more taqwa of Allah." And as Shaykh al-Sa'di said, اعلم هديت أن أفضل المن علم يزيل الشك عنك والدرن ويكشف الحق لذي القلوب ويسري العبد إلى المطلوب. علم يزيل الشك عنك والدرن. اعلم هديت أن أفضل المن. I just memorized these lines. I don't know how, but I don't know the whole point. But just these lines he mentions. Know that from the best minan, blessings that Allah gives you, things that Allah gives you, ilmun is knowledge. Yuzilu shakka anka, which will take away doubt from you. Anka wa daran, and okay, yes, and it remove doubts from you, and daran, dirt. So one of the way to remove the dirt is knowledge, but of course also seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, let me see the questions that you asked. No, understand. Okay. Also, inshallah, those of you need to leave, you can leave. Even you can't leave your house, but you can leave if you need to leave to go somewhere. But we're going to, in the week, we'll have a summary of Kashf al-Shubuhat. Just the 10-20 minute questions the brother asked, or what was the two effect, or what were supposed to be the two effects on mentioned by the author for committing minor shirk in Qaid al-Arba. The Sheikh said in Qaid al-Arba, الشرك إذا خالط العبادة أفسدها, it corrupts it. الشرك, if it joins with worship, corrupts that worship. وأحبط العمل, and nullifies the deeds. وصار صاحبه من الخالدين في النار, and its doer will be of those attaining the hellfire. So from these three things, the first one is the one that applies to minor shirk. أفسدها. So if a person does an act of worship and minor shirk connects to it, then that act of worship itself will become null and void. As for his other acts of worship, then they will remain, and acts for being eternally in the hellfire, then that does not apply to him. So there's only one effect out of those three effects that the author mentioned, and Allah knows best. The other two questions, inshallah, I will get back to you. We stop there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.